Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Thursday. It is February the 4th. This will be our chart lesson for the day, and it was all uphill today. It was straight up. There's a spike in channel here, and there's actually two channels. Early on, I played this blue channel, but when we started coming up short here you could blame it right in here. You could probably blame it on the midline of the blue channel because we're turning down off of it. But it was just kind of odd that we were getting above here. You could clearly see something was holding. So I went ahead and drew this trend line across here. I really didn't do that until we made this high here. So I went ahead and drew that trend line across there, drug it down, and then kept my eyes peeled that, hey, maybe we're going to have a flatter channel, which we did. And so you could find this yellow channel real early, um, just simply because of these highs right here. Just draw your trend line off those highs, and you can see they came in play perfectly later, and then later down the road we played that trend line all the way up till we got really all the way up into the 2 o'clock hour, so all, the rest of the trading day. Generally the mornings are your better trading. um, Today it was kind of the opposite, really. From 10:30 on was the best trading, and it's the last few days late in the afternoon, maybe from 11 o'clock or 12 to about 2 o'clock, there's not a lot of price action. You can see it slow down there considerably. So that's 3.5 hours of price action right there, and we didn't go very far at all. And if you look how many bars we had between 8:30 and 10:30, the 2 hours, I mean, it's a whole lot more price action. So for some reason, it's slowing down considerably late in the afternoons. And generally, you're going to, the mornings are more orderly and you get more entries, but just not that way today. And the last couple of days, I've noticed it slows down a lot in the afternoon, or the volume slows down, I should say. You could tell by the the fewer number of bars there. But let's back out and talk about the trades based on what you see. Again, it's all uphill. Now, you'll notice I didn't mark any shorts today. It's too risky. Actually, from about here on, it doesn't look like it, but this is a strong trend. When you start to see these little moves up and then some sideways and moves up, and you see these stems on both sides, lots of little doji looking bars, but it just keeps going higher, and the corrections are very shallow like they are here, where you're not even really correcting downwards, you're just correcting sideways almost. That's a strong trend. So this thing was strong this afternoon. So you only want to be buying. You don't want to be trying to sell this. Sure, there might be some setups here that look really good and it worked out great, but it's just not worth trying to short an uptrend. You'll be better off, much better off, waiting for to go long at the key entry point. So let's back out here. We'll go through the trades. It won't take long today. This was a pretty easy day, and not a lot of trades either. So, but anyway, 7 o'clock comes just as we're making this move up here, and then we just kind of go sideways. At this point, this was a range, and you can clearly see it was a possibility this was going to be a range day. And you can clearly see this resistance up here if you drag this line back. It's already there. And so we came up, we made this high. Notice we got the little trend working up. We get the close outside. There's actually one leg up correction, two legs up, and then there's a lower high here. I marked this as green simply because it's an inside bar. It makes a high or low. It's definitely a lower high. I would have liked it better if it broke higher and it was a little better bar, but I think it's 4 ticks. It's actually at 6 ticks. So it's still relatively low risk, and it's right off the resistance of what looks like it's going to be a range, and it's a lower high, and look, we're still a long way away from the EMA. Turns out we're just in a trading range here, but at that point, even if it was starting to look like one, but even if it was, you still got a little room back there. So, and at that point, I would have probably called this the lows, but I ended up moving this around a little bit as we got more price action. So it's a little risky, and even after the fact, it looks even more risky. But you might have taken that one, so I marked it. And of course, we're just moving sideways, and we get a little failed breakout here. And there's a good signal bar that you could have shorted, but again, you're better off to wait on a lower high when it makes a new high like that. So, and you don't get a lower high. So, notice that none of these others, I mean, this one, the reason we can take this one is the matching highs right there, and you don't get that anywhere else down through here. Even though this is an inside bar. Technically, this is an inside bar. That's another reason, because it's just two inside bars. But we're not really playing that signal bar. We're really playing this as a lower high. And again, if it would have broke higher, I would have liked it even better. But it doesn't. It just makes an equal high there. So technically, you could trade that one to the short side. It's not a great setup, and that's why I marked it green. But I figure somebody will ask about it. So there it is. And then we come back to the trend line. Unfortunately, you don't get a setup, and you still got this resistance here. We did push through once, but by the time you get a setup here, that's just too congestive, and it's not worth risking. It takes on off, and I don't know how this broke, if it broke higher or lower first. If it broke lower and touched the line and turned up, I still don't like going long because it's right into that resistance of the possible range there. It's just not a good setup. But notice we come back, you get a new bounce. You might look at this. Notice there's one leg up and then a correction and a second leg up. You might look at that as a failed second entry short. But the fact that we were coming up short here was leading me to believe that we're going to get a break pretty soon, or else there's another channel in play. And so that makes this, you probably want to wait on a second entry or a high or low here. And you get both right here, but not a very good signal bar setup. But when you get another attempt to go lower right there that fails, now you got a trap. I like going long there. And off it goes. Turns back down, comes back down, same thing, back to the trend line, back to the midline of the yellow one. And you can clearly see prices working off that midline of that yellow, which is this real light blue line, all the way back down here. So you may take that one. Notice there's a new swing low, it's lower than that one. So you get a first entry, second entry. So it's a failed second entry short. It's a good signal bar. It's off the EMA. It's off the yellow midline. It's close enough to the key entry point. A lot of reasons you may take that one. It's just a first entry though, and it's still inside that little trend channel. So there's some strikes against it too. It's one of those that you could, it's going to be a judgment call based on your how much risk you're willing to take on. Sometimes these pay off well. There is a high or low here, and I didn't mark that one. I should probably at least mark that one green because it does break lower than turn up, and so that's a high or low, and that would be a second entry long as well. So that one's probably a better trade than this one, and I should have marked that green, but I was trying to figure out which way I'd go with it. I wasn't quite sure how I felt about it. But I think that's the better trade. I think they're both a little high risk. So, but off we go to the upside. You don't want to enter any of these other trades. You're getting, you're too far away. There's a pullback here, and it doesn't quite get back to these lows. You might have looked at this like so. But it doesn't find support at the top here. It gets back in. It doesn't bounce to the midline, and you don't want to go long right there. So just not a very good setup. And then we come back. We're bouncing along, and now we're going to find out if this trend line's in play or not. And notice how we bounce off of it several times here. But you can't go long inside that little trading range, right into the EMA as well. So just wait. And then finally it pushes outside, pulls back, tests that trend line, gives you a fairly decent bar. Now you got a chance to go long. It's a breakout pullback kind of short, but look how many times you tested that trend line. That pretty much confirms it. So notice you start down here at the lows. You get your first touch right here. You really kind of confirmed it there, but that's still all part of the same move. So when we push on out of there and pull back and test it again, and you can see now most people realize, hey, we're not going lower, we're going higher here. and they probably got shorts trapped, and look at it go, boom. And off we go. Now we're back above the midline, and then we just kind of work sideways back to this main trend line again. And notice what happens. Not only do you bounce off this trend line, but you got a range here, and you're off the low, and you made a low, and you tested it once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. With that and the key entry point, a nice bullish bar, I like going long there. Make sure you got enough room to get out before these highs on this range. You might want to use a limit order there if you don't, but I like entering there. And if you didn't enter then, you get a second chance here on a high or low, again, right off the key entry point. And if you didn't enter there, when you get the failure here and the breakout pullback, go long right there. And this one took a little bit, but it works out. I really thought we'd go on higher there, and you can see, but we're still going higher here. They had a little stop run here, so this is always a good place to enter. I didn't draw it, but let me just kind of. You can clearly see that range. And again, you tested it multiple times. It's almost a repeat of this one. And, you know, you're testing, you've got the yellow trend line, the small range support, the EMA. You got several reasons to like that one. And again, look how it rockets on up right there. It hesitated here a minute, and then once it pushed on through, it hits a lot of those sell stops on the short. And a lot of people start chasing it, and it runs it on up a little bit. And no reason to interrupt. This is a little spiking channel. Let me just draw this so some of you can see it here. Spike up, go into that channel, and it's probably even a little flatter than that. It's probably going to be more like that. That fits much better, and then you get the overshoot, and you get a little hidden second entry right here. Notice this. Notice the move down, correction, second move down. So that's a second entry long, a hidden one. It's a little more advanced, so if you don't understand that, don't worry about it. Don't spend a lot of time on it because it's more advanced. But basically, if you went to a smaller chart, you'd clearly see a two-legged pullback and a break higher here, so it'd be a second entry. And that gives you your last trade going into the 2 o'clock hour. And again, I don't think you want to short anything up here. So pretty straightforward day, really. If you found the yellow channel and you just waited till prices came back to the key entry point or the trend line here, every one of them would have been a winner. None would have cost you, you wouldn't have lost on any of them. So that's the kind of day you like to have. That's the kind of trend channel you like to find too. So pretty much the same thing here on the blue one. If, you know, even though we don't take them all, if you'd have just traded everything that came back to the trend line that gave you a setup, no losers there. Of course, you didn't get a trigger here. It just pushed right on through, so you wouldn't have got fooled on that one. And any of these others that came back to the trend line would have been a winner, even though they're not good setups. So staying with the trend and the key entry points, that's the key. Staying with the key entry points is key. So that's not enough keys for you. We can probably come up with some more words to throw in there to rhyme with it. But anyway, pretty good trading day. Not a lot of trades today, but most of them are all straightforward. If you just followed the rules, they were pretty much all winners. And just don't counter trend these days. Even though this looks tempting to go short off some of this stuff, don't do it. Wait for the with trend bias entry. You improve your look. If the trend's up like this and you buy, you can screw up and make mistakes and still have winning trades. But if you counter trend trade and screw up, you're in a world of hurt. Don't do it. Stick to the with trend entries. It makes our job so much easier. So anyway, this is going to wrap up our week. No chart lessons on Fridays, so we'll be back again to do it Monday. And I'm going to wrap it up for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.